Have you ever noticed how the world seems to hush when there's no one around, how the silence can feel heavier than any sound? That moment when everything slows down and you are left completely alone with your own thoughts is not empty space. It acts like a mirror, reflecting parts of you that were easy to ignore when life was loud. For many people, that mirror feels unbearable. Old regrets rise up, doubts creep in, memories play on repeat. Your mind scrambles to fill that quiet because distraction feels safer than looking beneath the surface. But what if the silence itself isn't the enemy? What if the fear of being alone is actually a signal pointing towards something deeper you have been avoiding for years? We live in a world that teaches us to believe that happiness exists outside of us. It says that the right relationship will fix everything, that the job we land will solve our restlessness, that someone's approval will finally make us feel whole. So we chase, we keep running, hoping something external will fill that quiet and mend the gap inside. Nobody tells you the truth. No one else can do that for you, not truly. When you find yourself alone, when there is no one left to perform for, when there is no audience to please, you are forced to face the question most people never ask, who am I, when no one is watching? That single question is a doorway. Loneliness is not merely an obstacle. It is a map that shows you where you lost connection with the most important person in your life, yourself. The good news is that this can be changed. You can transform loneliness into a teacher. That silence you dread actually holds answers you have been too busy to hear. Within that space, you can discover the parts of yourself you have been neglecting, hiding, or trying to fix through someone else's presence. When you learn to be content in your own company, everything shifts. You stop depending on others to fill you. You stop chasing return love that is not real or healthy. Instead, you begin to become the person you always needed. This is not about giving up on relationships. It is about finding peace inside so that when people enter your life, they complement your wholeness rather than try to create it. That kind of power is unstellable. It does not come from noise. It emerges from stillness. If you can sit with yourself, if you can learn to be whole without needing a crowd or a partner to validate you, you unlock a freedom most people never experience. Stay with me here, because by the end of this journey, you will understand that being alone is not punishment. It is an invitation. It is the opening where healing begins, courage takes root, and the most important relationship finally awakens, the relationship with yourself. You were never meant to abandon your own needs to be accepted by others. Yet that is the pattern many of us learned. We shrink, we smile, we silence what we need in order to fit into someone else's comfort. Now, in the quiet moments, you feel the weight of that betrayal, not from someone else, but from within. Every time you chose someone else's approval over your own peace, a piece of you went missing. You did not lose yourself all at once. It happened slowly, through 1,000 tiny compromises, 1,000 small times when you told yourself, it's fine, even though it was not. And now you are here alone, not because you have failed, but because your soul has grown tired of pretending. This space you stand in, this silence is not a punishment. It is a return. It is coming back to yourself. Yes, it feels raw. Yes, it feels unfamiliar. Do not run. This is the place to begin anew. This is where you reclaim your worth, not from someone's validation, but from the simple truth that you exist. You breathe. You are still here. You have survived your own silence. That makes you powerful beyond measure. Being happy alone is not about sitting in isolation with a fake smile. It is about facing truth without distraction. It is being brave enough to sit with fear and ask it what it is trying to protect. It is giving yourself permission to feel sadness, anger, joy, without needing anyone else's stamp of approval. Slowly, you come to realize that the emotions you once tried to drown are actually your compass. When you stop numbing them, they begin to guide you home. The world constantly tells you something is missing. It pushes the message that you need more followers, more likes, more people around you. But what if nothing is missing? What if everything you seek has been buried underneath the noise and the restlessness? You don't have to become someone else. You need to remember who you were before society directed you to perform. That is where genuine strength comes from. Not the applause of others, but the quiet hours when you stand up for yourself with no one watching, when you decide to stop begging for affection and instead offer it to yourself freely. When you stop waiting for rescue and learn to rescue yourself, that is when change begins. Right now, you are not lost. You are finding your way back, returning to your own voice, your own pace, your own truth. If you stay long enough in this space and resist the urge to run, you will discover something surprising: peace, a peace that does not depend on anyone else, a peace that cannot be taken away, a peace that finally tells you you are enough exactly as you are. alone but never empty, never less, only more whole with each silent breath you choose to take. There is profound power in not waiting for the message, the apology, the invitation, or the recognition. You've waited too long for others to see you and choose you, but your life does not begin when someone else shows up. It starts the moment you decide you are already enough. That is the shift. That's the point when you stop begging for crumbs and begin building your own table. You are not here to chase others. You are here to create a life that feels like peace. The right people and right moments will be naturally drawn to that energy, but first you must claim it. Sit with the discomfort of letting go. Grieve what never materialized. In that sacred emptiness, you may see clearly that no one was ever meant to complete you. You were not born half. You were born whole, and the world taught you to forget this fact. Now you are remembering the voice inside you, the fire inside your gut, the wisdom that lives in your silence. Gradually, what once felt like loneliness begins to feel like freedom. No longer performing, no longer proving, just being. That is enough. There is no greater act of rebellion than choosing peace in a world addicted to clamor. There is no greater love than the one you give yourself when no one else shows up. Your power lies here. It is not in the hands of someone who ignores you, nor in temporary comforts, but in your own steady breath. Solitude is not the absence of love. It is the foundation of it. If you cannot love yourself in the silence, you will always be addicted to the noise of others. You will only feel safe when someone else is present. That is dependence disguised as connection. So breathe and notice what it means to exist without having to impress, to explain, to justify. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a soul unfolding. The more you allow yourself to be whole, unfiltered, and unshaken, the less you need anyone to confirm your value. That value rises inside you the moment you stop running from who you are and start standing with yourself. You are no longer waiting. You are becoming the kind of person who no longer fears solitude but honors it. You become someone who does not chase but attracts, someone who does not beg for love because they have already discovered it within. Stop equating silence with failure. You were taught to keep busy because stillness was portrayed as weakness. But stillness is not emptiness. It is where life speaks the loudest. It is where you can hear the truth beneath the noise. When you learn to be present in that stillness, you will uncover the voice that matters most, your own. You do not need to seek permission outside to feel complete. You do not need a partner to be worthy. You do not need a crown to be seen. You only need to look inward and greet the part of you that has been waiting to be chosen by you. The deepest wound is not being left by someone else. It is abandoning yourself repeatedly to avoid being alone. That cycle ends the instant you decide your presence is not a hole to be filled but a space to be honored. A quiet confidence grows when you stop asking others to mirror your value back to you. It is not loud or flashy. It enters an empty room and still feels whole. That kind of confidence is the product of doing the work in quiet, learning to enjoy your own company, facing your shadows instead of distracting from them. As you begin to enjoy your presence, you stop needing to run away. You stop pleading for attention that only feeds insecurity. You build a foundation of self-trust so strong that no one else's absence can unsettle it. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too much or not enough. You are in the process of remembering that you were always entitled to peace, even when the world taught you otherwise. The fear of being alone is not the enemy. It is the story attached to it, the idea that solitude equals failure. But often being alone is the first sign you are finally doing something right. You have stopped settling. You have stopped pretending. You have stopped dimming your light for the comfort of others. That is not loneliness. It is liberation. Lean into this season. Lean into quiet. Let the stillness remove everything that was never really yours. Let it bring you face to face with the person you are when there is no one watching. That is where the real work begins. That is where self-respect is formed. Not from what others grant you, but from what you give yourself when no one sees. You are not just learning to be content alone. You are learning to be the person who no longer fears their own company. You become someone who does not run from themselves, but runs toward the truth inside. Most people never touch true peace because they spend their lives avoiding themselves. They pour their energy into people who cannot see them, into roles that do not fit, into noise that keeps them from listening. In that chaos, they forget how to simply be. You are not most people. You are waking up. You are learning that the quiet you once feared contains your power. The silence that once felt like danger is now your mirror, sanctuary, and teacher. There is a version of you that does not chase love because it becomes love, that does not plead to be chosen because it chooses itself daily. That lets go of what is not working without guilt. That version already lives inside you. It is not waiting to be created. It is waiting to be uncovered beneath the fear and the rush to be anything other than yourself. The more you return to yourself, the sooner peace becomes the norm rather than the prize. A powerful shift happens when you stop measuring worth by who stays around. You begin to see that true connection is not about quantity. It is about being seen. Sometimes the only person who must see you clearly is you. The moment you sit in your own presence and feel whole without performance or filters, you break free. You stop living to be chosen and begin living as if you already are. This path is not about escaping solitude. It is about transforming it into fuel. It is about converting emptiness into empowerment. Solitude is not to be survived. It is to be embraced. You stop fearing being alone because you reclaim your life from those who never offered it back to you. You no longer hand your joy to someone else. You take it back with fierce tenderness. With that reclamation comes a strength no relationship, achievement, or external thing can replace. The love you sought from others is inside you. It is what you rediscover when you stop seeking approval elsewhere, when you start showing up for yourself the way you once wanted someone else to. When you honor boundaries and speak your truth with gentleness, that is not selfish. That is sacred. That is healing. You do not need saving. You need to remember who you are when everything else falls away. You are not missing. You are not incomplete. You are rising into a self that is whole in solitude, grounded in stillness, and no longer frightened by silence. The silence is now full of you, and that is more than enough. You were not made to perform for those who do not understand their own worth. That's why it always felt exhausting. No matter how much you offered, it was never enough because you believed you had to earn love. That old belief is a root you can pull out. You are not here to perform. You are here to be real. Being real entails loving yourself fully, even in a culture that profits from your doubt. True happiness is not measured by who surrounds you, but by how centered you remain when they leave. You are allowed to be content with no applause. You are allowed to smile without explaining it. You are allowed to breathe and say, "This moment is enough. I am enough." When you stop attaching worth to someone else's response, you are free. Not because you added something to yourself, but because you stopped giving yourself away. There is something sacred in sitting alone and feeling peace, not needing a distraction, not needing a screen to steady you, not needing another voice to validate you, just you. Your breath, your presence, that peace is not found outside. It is cultivated. It is built in moments you honor your needs and trust your own timing. When you stop rushing to fill silence, you begin hearing the wisdom within. The wisdom says you have always been whole. You were simply looking in the wrong place. The world told you alone meant lonely. Now you are learning alone can mean aligned with purpose, with truth, with the soul's quiet direction. When you live in alignment, you stop settling for relationships that drain, conversations that numb, and places that make you small. You will no longer tolerate being half seen or half heard. Once you taste the fullness of your company, anything less feels empty. Your healing is not dramatic, it is steady and quiet. It grows in the space that once felt abandoned and fills it with something deeper, self-trust. When you trust yourself, you stop fearing silence. You welcome it because you know it holds truth. You are unmasked and unafraid. You are not alone because you are unworthy. You are alone because this season is about you, your growth, your healing, your rebirth. When you step out from the silence, you will not be the same. You will be more powerful, more whole, more free. Growth begins the moment you stop waiting for rescue and stop believing someone else will finish what you started. You are not half of anything. You are already whole. The craving is not for another's energy, but for your own presence. No one can truly meet you until you meet yourself, unpolished, unaltered, real. That raw version of you is not broken. It is the beginning. When you stop outsourcing happiness, you reclaim your power. It is uncomfortable at first because silence reveals what you avoid, but that discomfort is a doorway, not a barrier. Walk through it. Feel what you need to feel. Cry if necessary. Grieve, then resist escape. Do not numb. Do not distract. On the other side of this work is clarity. It is peace. It is a self so rooted that nothing outside can pull it loose. You have bent yourself to fit into places that were never built for you. Now it is time to expand, not to please, but to honor yourself. You need not explain your solitude. You need not justify your healing. You are not leaving the world. You are returning to yourself. When you come home to who you are, you refuse to tolerate anything that makes you forget your worth. Knowing your worth is not a feeling only. It is a standard, a boundary, a calm power that declares, I will not abandon myself for acceptance. Being alone is not missing out, it is tuning in, it is giving space to hear the voice buried under noise. That voice is your compass, let it lead you home. You were not made to chase love, you were made to embody it. You were not born to beg for approval. You were born to know your essence without reminders. This is your time to remember, not by becoming different, but by being who you were before the world told you to be anything else. In your silence, you will find answers. In your stillness, you will find strength. In loving yourself without conditions, you will know what freedom really is. You do not need fixing. You need honoring. You do not require saving. You need someone to witness you yourself. Choose you, especially when no one else does. The greatest breakthroughs come not when life becomes easy, but when you become stronger in your stillness, when you cease fearing your own presence. When the mirror stops judging and starts recognizing what looks back is not lacking or broken or behind, it is awake, alert, whole. That quiet inner alignment changes everything. You stop chasing noise and people and fleeting moments. You become fulfilled by your own presence. There is power in knowing you do not need to be understood to be at peace. Your healing needs no explanation. Your worth does not depend on another's nod. You can be free without permission. You can feel joy without approval. That freedom adjusts how you move through life. Once you know you are enough, you stop attaching value to what can be removed. Life shifts from struggle to homecoming. You begin to move with intention, speak differently, choose differently, not to prove, but because you finally accept you do not have to. You will no longer be louder, more impressive, or more pleasing. You will simply be. That simplicity is magnetic. You stop forcing a fit into places meant to hold someone else. You realize you were not made to fit. You were made to stand. Choosing solitude is not choosing isolation, it is choosing intimacy with yourself. You build trust moment by moment with the only person who will walk with you every season you. Trust comes from showing up, listening, honoring needs and limits. That trust makes you unshakable. When the world tells you are behind, you will know you are exactly where you need to be. When it tries to rush you, you will move with purpose. When it attempts to make you doubt, you will remember your truth. This work is not about becoming new. It is about becoming real, someone who does not hide behind noise or busyness, who no longer fears quiet nights or slow mornings, who meets themselves with compassion. You do not wait for someone else to choose you to feel worthy. You were born worthy. You simply forgot, now you remember, and in remembering you begin anew, not seeking, but arrived, whole, steady, unapologetically free. A quiet confidence rises when you stop begging life to change and start meeting it as it is. No more resistance, no more waiting for rescue. You take power back the day you stop outsourcing your peace. You no longer rely on perfect circumstances to be grounded. You no longer need another's presence to be complete. Something deeper is building inside, a rooted self-worth that stands in silence, breathes deeper, listens not for applause but for truth. You learn that not every pause is a lack. Some pauses are invitations to meet yourself beyond the noise. Ask harder questions, face what you avoided. In doing so, you discover emotional honesty. You look at fear without flinching. You sit with pain without rushing it away. You let truth surface. In that act, you begin to heal. When you stop running, clarity finds you. You stop filling emptiness with distractions, and you make room for quiet transformation. It is not dramatic. It whispers with steady wisdom and grows under the surface until everything changes. Not because circumstances shifted, but because you did. You stopped abandoning yourself and apologizing for needing time. In that stillness, you find what was missing: inner safety. There is sacred strength in being with yourself and not feeling lost, in being alone and not feeling abandoned, in meeting your thoughts without fear. That marks the start of the real journey, not a journey of achievement, but one of alignment. You stop reaching outward to patch things up and begin reaching inward to remember who you are. Each time you honor that, you reclaim a piece of power you once gave away. The world will try to drag you back into noise. It will tempt you with distraction, comparison, and urgency. But now you have a choice: peace over pressure, presence over performance, truth over approval. You are not behind. You are aligning. You are anchoring. You thrive in silence because there you found your voice. In solitude, you met your strength. In choosing you fully and without apology, you begin a revolution no one can take from you. What if the greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to be wholly present right now? No edits, no fixes, no conditions. Just raw presence. This is where true happiness starts. Not in future plans or old regrets, but in grounding into the here and now. The mind will try to pull you away with worries and what ifs, but you can learn to quiet that noise. Stillness is not an escape. It is courage. It takes strength to face yourself without distraction, to sit in your company and find peace. When you treat solitude as a practice, not punishment, everything changes. Solitude becomes sacred, a place where your soul breathes. You build the relationship with yourself that you once hoped others would build for you. You begin to hear your needs without shame and to approve yourself independent of outside opinion. That internal approval becomes louder than external voices. It is a voice rooted in truth, calm, and compassion. It does not demand, it simply knows. That transformation rewires you. Consistent solitude reduces stress, sparks creativity, and deepens emotional intelligence. When you stop fleeing your mind, you allow it to reset and repair. Thoughts clear, emotions become manageable. A stable sense of self emerges. This foundation supports every brave, joyful, and meaningful choice you make. The clearer you are, the more your energy attracts people, not because you seek their attention, but because you radiate authenticity. Do not fear solitude as failure. See it as readiness to grow beyond the surface. You choose depth over distraction and authenticity over approval. This choice affects what you attract. Stop patching emptiness with temporary fixes and open the door for lasting joy. You become a beacon of real happiness, drawing others not by seeking them, but because your peace is magnetic. This path is not quick or easy, but it is worthwhile. Each moment alone is an investment in freedom from dependence, fear, and the chase for validation. Daily practices of solitude rewire your heart and mind. You tell yourself you are enough, not later, but now. That knowing births a confidence that cannot be shaken. You stop hiding your fears and imperfections and accept them as parts of your unique self. Acceptance is liberation. It frees you from exhausting perfection and lets you show up genuinely, which attracts real connections. Embrace yourself fully and you make room for happiness that is constant, not conditional. Being happy alone is not loneliness. It is self-possession. It is finding peace in your presence and joy in your company. This state grows from small habits, moments of stillness, kind acts to yourself, simple affirmations. Over time, these habits train your brain to prefer peace over panic. Your inner life becomes a steady source of calm. Choosing happiness alone is radical self-love, a rebellion against culture that equates value with companionship. It is a declaration of completeness. This choice is hard and needs courage to face the quiet and patience to build the habit. Each step makes you lighter and freer. Ultimately, you feel that the deepest connection possible is with yourself, a bond no one can take away. You are your own home. No matter where life leads, there is a sanctuary within that no one can enter or remove. This sanctuary does not rest on achievements or possessions. It rests on presence, acceptance, and unconditional self-love. Living from this inner home changes everything. You do not fear being alone because solitude becomes restorative. This inner sanctuary grows by choosing presence over distraction. The mind will try to escape loneliness by scrolling or busying itself. Real happiness asks for the opposite. Slow down, be still, look within. In that stillness, you find clarity about your true desires and values. You realize, sometimes slowly and sometimes all at once, how much of your life has been shaped not by your own hands, but by the expectations of others. It is almost startling to think about how much of who you believe yourself to be has been borrowed, stitched together from the opinions, judgments, and standards of people around you. For years, you might not even notice it because it feels normal, like breathing in the air that surrounds you. But solitude has a way of peeling back the layers. It offers you the stillness to see with clarity that the identity you carry is not entirely yours. In that silence, you are invited to reclaim your story, to own it fully, and to live it authentically without needing someone else's permission. In solitude, something beautiful happens. You start to notice that you are not just a character in other people's narratives, you are the author of your own. The quiet space gives you the chance to be your own best friend, the kind of companion you might have been seeking in others all along. You learn to speak more gently to yourself, to soothe your own fears with compassion rather than criticism. You begin to listen deeply to your inner voice, that wisdom which is always there but often drowned out by the endless noise of the world. Slowly, trust builds between you and yourself, a trust that becomes the foundation of resilience. And when life throws its inevitable challenges at you, you notice a shift. You don't crumble quite as easily. You don't panic quite as quickly. Instead, you respond from a place of grounded strength, like a tree that bends with the wind but does not break. And this strength is not about becoming hard or rigid. It is not about shielding yourself with armor or pretending you are untouched by pain. It is about finding the courage to be soft even when life is harsh. It is the bravery to stand tall while still allowing yourself to feel fear, to cry when needed, to hurt, and yet not to be consumed by it. Softness paired with courage becomes your quiet superpower. It allows you to nurture your own soul, to give yourself the compassion you have often withheld, and to treat yourself with the tenderness you deserve. This delicate balance of softness and courage transforms solitude from being a place of emptiness or loneliness into a wellspring of power. Choosing happiness in solitude means releasing the endless hunger for validation from outside sources. It means no longer basing your worth on how many people approve of you, how often you are praised, or how well you fit into someone else's mold. Instead, you begin to set your own standards rooted in your deepest values and in what feels true for you. And when you shift into this way of living, something remarkable happens inside your brain. Neuroscience shows that practicing self-compassion and acceptance changes your chemistry. Your brain begins releasing soothing, feel-good chemicals that lift your mood and reduce the stress that gnaws at your spirit. You create a loop of peace within yourself, a cycle where happiness breeds more happiness, flowing gently inward and outward. The journey of learning to be happy alone is not about walling yourself off from others or sinking into isolation. It is about building the most important connection of all, the connection with yourself. This inner connection doesn't just stay within. It radiates outward and changes the way you relate to the world. You become less desperate for approval, less anxious about fitting in, more confident in the uniqueness of your being. That confidence, that authenticity has a magnetic quality. People are drawn to those who are at peace with themselves because authenticity is rare and radiant. Your presence begins to glow not with a loud flash, but with a steady, peaceful light. And this light born from solitude becomes the source of joy that no absence can erase. No external storm can diminish. When you choose to cultivate happiness alone, you create a foundation sturdy enough to support every area of your life. Relationships shift into healthier patterns, no longer driven by neediness but by genuine choice. You don't cling to others to fill your emptiness. You walk alongside them because your heart is full. Work becomes more meaningful, not because of external pressure or comparison, but because it flows from passion, curiosity, and love for what you do. Even the simplest daily moments, watching the sunlight through your window, sipping tea, breathing deeply, become richer because you are fully present, not distracted or disconnected. This foundation of self-love and solitude is not a final destination you arrive at once and for all. It is a practice, a lifelong journey that unfolds day by day. A practice that continues to offer you freedom, strength, and peace beyond what you thought was possible. The transformation deepens when your perspective on solitude shifts. Instead of looking at it as emptiness, punishment, or a void to escape, you start to see it as fertile ground where your soul can stretch, breathe, and grow. In solitude, there are no masks to wear, no roles to perform, no noise to drown out your truth. It is just you in your rawest and most honest form. Facing yourself without judgment in that raw space becomes the first step toward true freedom. You begin to see clearly that your worth has never depended on someone's presence, approval, or applause. You are enough simply because you exist. This realization isn't something you understand once and forget. It's a daily choice. Every morning you wake up, you are offered the chance to honor your own company. You can choose to sit quietly with yourself, to notice your breath, to listen kindly to your thoughts, to accept your fears without rushing to push them away. These small daily acts send powerful signals to your subconscious. I matter. I am worthy of care. I am not something to abandon. Over time, your brain begins to expect this kindness from within rather than searching desperately for it outside. This is how emotional independence is born. Emotional independence does not mean you shut others out or build thick walls around your heart. It means you carry within you a sanctuary, a safe inner home that protects your peace no matter what storms rage outside. With this sanctuary intact, you can love others freely without fear of losing yourself. You can give without expectation. You can engage deeply with the world without being consumed by it. And because of this inner sanctuary, your relationships with others flourish. They are no longer based on dependency or fear, but on genuine connection and freedom of choice. Equally important, solitude strengthens your ability to say no when something drains you and to say yes to what truly nourishes your soul. This is one of the quiet powers of being happy alone. It prepares you for the inevitable shifts of life. People will come and go, circumstances will rise and fall, but your sanctuary within remains steady. When you find joy in your own company, you carry resilience that cannot be shaken by external forces. You are no longer easily toppled by disappointment, rejection, or uncertainty because you know your foundation is unbreakable. This is the essence of freedom, the freedom to remain fully yourself no matter what happens around you. To nurture this freedom, you can begin with the simplest practices. Turn off the noise of your phone for a while, step away from endless distractions, breathe deeply, and bring your attention back to your body. Notice your heartbeat, the rise and fall of your chest, the sensation of your feet grounded on the floor. These tiny acts of mindfulness reconnect you with your own presence. They whisper to you that you are enough right here without anything added. And each moment of this mindful solitude strengthens the pathways in your brain that lead to calm, contentment, and peace instead of anxiety and restlessness. Choosing to be happy alone is a radical act of self-love. It takes courage to sit in silence without reaching for distractions, vulnerability to face your raw self without masks, and discipline to keep prioritizing your inner world. But the reward is immeasurable, a life where peace is constant, where joy is steady, and where you are never truly alone because you have cultivated the most faithful connection of all, your connection with yourself. There is a hidden power in solitude that so many overlook because it feels uncomfortable at first. Solitude invites you to slow down, to feel what you often run from, your own thoughts and emotions. And though this feels daunting, when you learn to be at ease with yourself, something shifts. You stop chasing shallow distractions or empty approval. Instead, you tap into an inner well of calm and clarity that no one else can give or take away. This piece is not about escaping hardship, it is about carrying calm within the storm, a steady knowing that no matter what life brings, your core remains intact and unshaken. When you stop running from yourself, growth begins, self-awareness blooms. You start noticing patterns that once controlled you unconsciously, fears you've carried, beliefs that held you back, habits that drained you. Awareness brings light, and with light comes the power to change. You begin to choose thoughts that strengthen you instead of thoughts that weaken you. You replace criticism with compassion in the way you speak to yourself. This inner dialogue becomes a steady friend instead of an enemy, and your solitude becomes nourishing instead of frightening. The human fear of being alone is ancient, woven deep into survival instincts, but in today's world, this fear can become a barrier to self-love if left unchecked. Loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness stems from a feeling of lack, from believing something vital is missing. Solitude is different. Solitude is a choice, a wide, open space of freedom where you can connect deeply with yourself. By choosing solitude, you build a sanctuary where healing takes place and creativity flourishes. You grow stronger not by avoiding pain, but by facing it courageously, by realizing that setbacks refine you rather than destroy you. And as you live this way, you discover that your worth was never tied to achievements, approval, or relationships. It has always been inherent. Recognizing this frees you from the exhausting cycle of seeking outside validation. It lets you live with authenticity and grace,